Don't leave me hanging. It's go time.
Hey everybody, this is Josh, and welcome to Game 2 in a best-of-3 series being played between Root DdoRo. He is the purple Protoss over here on the left side of Lost Temple, not to be confused with Shattered Temple. This is, in fact, the older version, Lost Temple. And his opponent today is LG Zelniq from Lazarus Gaming. Zelniq is a North American Zerg that needs more credit, I think. He plays in a lot of tournaments. He has actually won a couple of them as well. Just not any MLGs or anything like that. I think the only MLG that he played in last year was MLG Dallas, where I met him for the first time, but hopefully he'll be back at the MLG events this year as well, and we can see him try to do his best work. And DdoRo, hopefully we'll be meeting him at MLG Dallas as well. We'll see. I'm just getting really excited for MLG Dallas, if you couldn't tell from the last few casts that I've done. It's coming up here in only about 2 weeks now, and I am getting all my video equipment ready. I've got like 3 tripods, 2 microphones, 3 cameras, all kinds of stuff to bring along and bring tons and tons of interviews and behind the scenes content. Hopefully this year they'll actually allow me into the player area. We'll see what actually happens with that, but I know the setup is going to be completely different this time around. They're going to have 272 players at MLG Dallas with 16 of them seated into pool play. Everything is just totally different. Actually, I might even make a video explaining how MLG is going to work this year, in case you haven't really been keeping up with all that stuff. But either way, here we are. The game is starting to sort of come into its own now, and we see that Zelniq is getting a spawning pool first, then extractors, so looks like a similar build to what we just saw on Xel'Naga Caverns. DdoRo, on the other hand, has not had enough time to get his Cybernetics core up yet, so we have no idea what he's going to be doing. Basically, you see either proxy gates or one gateway Cybernetics core, because that's where everything for Protoss really opens up. He can get a Stargate, robotics facility, basically whatever he wants to do comes after the Cybernetics core, whereas Zelniq is sort of pigeonholed into getting Zergling speed before he gets anything else. There are some kind of crazy builds that don't usually work too well where you wait on Zergling speed for a long time, but the fact is you kind of need it to be able to defend early game attacks from any race. So we'll see what DdoRo does, if he tries anything sneaky here. He's got a probe hidden behind Zelniq's natural. He might just use that to drop a pylon or try to block this hatchery. Will he be fast enough? It looks like no. Zelniq is just going to get his 300 minerals and come right over there. He does still have this probe hidden though, and I don't believe Zelniq can see it. He is being very expert at sneaking his probe around the back so these Zerglings can't find it, but now it looks like he is going to be in that vision range for the Lynx, so we'll see if he survives or not. Takes a little pit stop by the Zel'Naga Tower, and that actually could be his undoing, as now a Zergling is onto him and trying to bite him to death. We'll catch up with him a little bit later. I'm just going to leave his health there in the little tab at the bottom, little window. But in the production tab, we see nothing really too exciting from either player. Zergling speed, as we knew, would be researched. Cybernetics core finished. Warp gate tech being chrono boosted, as we pretty much guessed would happen. This probe can just march right through this Zealot. Of course, these Zerglings cannot, so he did actually survive the Zergling onslaught from a minute ago. DdoRo's getting his second gas up now, and I've seen him do that fast Colossus build like we just saw in Xel'Naga Caverns. I've seen him 4-gate plenty of times. I've seen him sneak tech around, build a Stargate where maybe the opponent wouldn't expect it. DdoRo really doesn't have a definitive PvZ style that I'm aware of. Basically, he does whatever strikes him, and right now it appears to be 3 gateways, which could lead into an expansion, or he might add on a robotics facility and try to do maybe some warp prism play. Could get an immortal out, depends what he thinks Zelniq is going to be doing. And right now DdoRo doesn't really have too much scouting information, but that's okay because Zelniq really isn't doing much. He's just getting lots and lots of drones, overlords, creep tumors, just setting up for the mid game already. If he were to be attacked by 100 gateway units right now, he would be absolutely steamrolled, but DdoRo doesn't know that because he hasn't been scouting quite often enough to know that. Zelniq is going to show up now with a single speedling, try to do some damage. Of course, he's going to be cut right in half by that Zealot and his Psyblade as he drops his Nexus here at his natural. Let's look at the Harvester count just for kicks and see that Zelniq has now surpassed DdoRo despite all those chrono boosted probes, now with 2 hatcheries, building nothing but drones. Zelniq has taken an economic lead. Spinecrawler down outside of his natural, Roachwarren coming up around the same time we saw on Xel'Naga Caverns, so Zelniq says to himself, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Forge coming down now for DdoRo. He can drop a cannon or two in his main mineral line and at his natural to help defend against any big roach timings like we saw on Zelniq Caverns. He basically got mowed over, bowled over, steamrolled, if you will, on that last game. He did not have any static defense at his base, but didn't really have any units either, so that was kind of a problem when Zelniq showed up with a ton of roaches. Either way, DdoRo still has not teched beyond gateways. He does have a lot of sentries out, which is a stark contrast to what we saw in Zelniq Caverns, where he had basically nothing but stalkers and a couple of colossi very quickly. Forge is done now, cannon dropped, so he has a long hook. If Speedlings are going to try and get up his ramp, they will have to run through a gambit of cannons, and looks like they are just looking around for something to attack. Zelniq does have a lair nearly completed now in his main. It'll be interesting to see which tech he actually goes for next. Mutalisks have kind of fallen out of favor against Protoss. They don't really do too well, so I'm curious if he's going to be getting a Hydralisk Den or an Infestation Pit instead. His scouting information should tell him by now that, yes, DdoRo has expanded. He's sending another Overlord in now to see the number of gateways. He doesn't see a robotics facility or a Stargate anywhere. So now we see DdoRo actually moving out with his first, how many sentries? 6 sentries, 3 Stalkers, and a Zealot. Will he build a pylon closer to Zelniq's base? I probably would if I were him, if I was actually committing to an attack right now. Zelniq does have some roaches out, and it looks like he is getting roach speed and burrow up at the same time. More drones and roaches, and a single evolution chamber coming as well. Probably going to be starting those ranged attack upgrades. There they go. And DdoRo decides, you know what, maybe I don't want to attack just yet. Maybe I want to get an observer out. So he's got 2 robotics facilities building at the same time. Burrow and tunneling claws can be very, very annoying for a Protoss player. If you don't have observers, you basically have to wait for him to come to your cannons and try and fight him there. This is actually a great position here for DdoRo to defend with this cannon setup, with this hook setup. He can put units up here on the cliff if he needs to, even to shoot down at anything that's attacking through this choke. And with this number of sentries, he can force field all around here and basically put Zelniq's units right where he wants them. But with burrow and no observers in the sky, it can be very difficult to do anything, as they can just burrow back underneath if he gets tunneling claws, which he actually hasn't. But more importantly, Hydralisk Den about to complete right now, so Zelniq can get the benefit from these ranged attacks for 2 units, not just roaches, but Hydralisks as well, actually queens as well, and spine crawlers. If he actually manages to spread this creep all the way to DdoRo's natural, these spine crawlers will of course benefit from that range damage as well, I believe. Maybe not. I'm not actually 100% sure if spine crawlers get that benefit or not. We'll have to actually see. They are ranged, and they do have a slot here for +1 upgrades, so perhaps they do. I learn things about this game all the time, so if I don't know what's happening, don't be shocked. That is just an obscure thing that I have never thought to look at, and I believe they do. My gut instinct is that they will benefit from this. Zerg building armor, however, does not benefit. Only ground carapace affects only units and not buildings. And actually, I'm not even sure. I don't think there is a building armor upgrade, so he's going to be stuck at 2 armor forever. DdoRo does have observers in the sky now. Tunneling claws are going to be done here soon, so that is a good thing for DdoRo to be able to have that. Zelniq has quite a lot of roaches now. He's got 27 roaches against 3 immortals and 12 stalkers and 7 sentries. So this sentry immortal combo could be what saves DdoRo, as Zelniq is looking rather aggressive here and oppressive, spreading creep all the way towards his natural now. There is an Overseer in the sky, so if he gets some Hydralisks out, it looks like he is doing that now. Might actually be able to snipe an observer and get that burrow working to its fullest advantage. Zelniq is actually sneaking a 3rd base way over here at the far right natural here. So if he is able to get that up as well, DdoRo will be falling a little bit further behind. Let's look at the Harvester count just very quickly before anything crazy happens. We'll see that they're basically dead even, 50 Harvesters apiece. Spire coming up for Zelniq, so it looks like he's trying to vary things up even more here. He's sitting at 1-0 upgrades for his Hydralisk and Roaches, and not Spine Crawlers. Okay, so Impaler Tentacles, despite being ranged, do not benefit from that ranged attack upgrade, so I was wrong. But here we go, Guardian Shield coming up. That's going to drop the damage taken by all these units from everything Zelniq has. That is quite a good move there. All the force fields trying to split up the army. Actually didn't manage to snag too many free kills with that, but look at this huge number of Immortals, Stalkers, and Sentries. If we look at army value alone, it looks like Zelniq is slightly ahead, but the value is all in DdoRo's favor. More Immortals coming out now. He's got plenty of warp gates to replenish with Stalkers during the fight. Zelniq working off of 2 hatches, actually 3 hatches now if you count that far right expansion, but anything he makes out of that is not going to be able to respond fast enough to supplement this battle. Check out the Observer overhead here, taking out creep tumors like a champion. Lots and lots of Immortals. This is the most Immortals I've seen in a very long time, since basically early release. As Immortals are just expensive, people have learned how to kind of deal with it, but against this number of roaches, Immortals are still so incredibly good. And here we go, DdoRo still just flinging right through here. He's got his 1-0 upgrades, Zelniq has his 1-0 upgrades, so all other things being equal, all these units should die really quick on both sides because they have no armor upgrades, only offensive upgrades. And this huge number of Stalkers as well is certainly going to help against this giant number of roaches. Look, they can't even get into position without getting totally obliterated by the Force Field Immortal and Stalker combo. Trying to burrow underneath these force fields keeps them alive slightly longer, but now the army value is totally in DdoRo's favor. And there is the GG from Zelniq. I actually thought the game was paused for a second there. My train of thought was still going, but I did not see Zelniq GG and leave the game. There we go. There you have it, DdoRo with a DdoRo with a very impressive unit composition here against Zelniq's Roach Hydra. Look, he just steamrolled through there, man. 153 against 118. That was just a crushing defeat. Good game to DdoRo. Actually, looked like on Zelniq Caverns maybe didn't really know what he was doing in PvZ, but it looks like he just reached into his random bag of strats and pulled out the wrong one for Zelniq Caverns, and here he knew what he was doing from start to finish. So now let's go into Game 3 of this Best of 3 series and see if Lazarus Gaming Zelniq or Root Gaming DdoRo will move on in the Root Gaming Success Pays Invitational.